I'm going to preface this video by saying I fell down a rabbit hole and I don't know if I have all the answers, but I don't think anybody has the full story of what's going on here. Hi everybody, welcome back to A Well-Read Nerd. I'm Amber, and as you can probably see from the title, I'm going to be talking somewhat about the reveal book box drama that went down on TikTok a couple of weeks ago. It's still sort of making the rounds. If you don't know what that is, it started with an indie author who basically made aware to everybody that when they had submitted to be seen in reveal book boxes, like subscription box, that the authors were not being compensated in any way. And specifically, along with not being compensated, they also wanted them to include at their own cost, plus shipping on them as well, 1,000 pieces of swag to go into the box. I'll put in here so you can see somewhat of the context of the original poster.
So I filled out a bunch of different author interest forms for book boxes. And I got a response from Reveal Book Box. They wanted to put Reckless in their book box. They sent me the contract, which really, in my opinion, it was not a contract. Okay, it was a sheet of paper that had rules lined out. There was no signature place or anything. They said, read this, make sure you're okay with this, and if you respond to the email, it will be confirmation. And I got a very icky feeling. For one, it didn't look like a contract to me. Two, there was no type of royalty rate or anything mentioning having to do with rate of pay for authors or anyone that contributed to their book boxes. So I emailed them back and I tell them, look, I just need you to confirm that there is a royalty rate. It doesn't need to be much, just any type of royalty rate. I don't care as long as there is some give and take here. I need confirmation. Then they sent me this email. Pause to read. And you're probably going to be very angry by the end of this, especially if you want to support authors or you are an author yourself.
All right, and then from that, a lot of other people sort of jumped on and started telling their own versions of dealing with this company. Now, I've never dealt with Reveal Box personally. However, I am very good at Google. So that's sort of where I'm getting my information for you guys from. And I'm also giving you guys this information because it sort of gives you an insight into what it's like on the other side of this camera when it comes to me preparing for my reviews with you guys. It might not sound like I do my research, but a lot of times I do a lot of research on the back end before I ever show you guys anything, and that's sort of like what I'm going to get into here with you guys. Now, if you saw my post from like last Tuesday about the email that I got from Unplugged Box, I have an update on that. I'm going to go into that as well for transparency with you guys. That's all this is about, is transparency, and to let you know that to do subscription unboxings and stuff as ethically as possible, there is a lot of work behind the scenes that needs to be done. So let's start with Reveal Box. Like I said, it started with that TikTok, and it started with people talking about the fact that authors were not compensated. And then that apparently it was also sort of industry standard for authors not to be compensated to be featured in a book box. I did not know that. I didn't. I very recently have gotten into the author side of social media for some stuff, mostly my ARC reading, and then also I'm working on my first debut, so trying to build a network over there. But apparently this was standard practice. I did not necessarily know that. I was working largely under the assumption that the authors were being paid for the book. Now, industry standard for a book for royalties is not as high as a lot of people think. Once you factor in the cost of publishing and everything else. Most authors, and this is indie authors because trad publishing is a whole other nightmare. I can go into that one day, including my own horror stories from back in the day when I was trying to get into it. Typically for a small batch publisher or an indie publisher or an indie published author, your average royalties are between $1 and $2 per book. And before you go like, yeah, but it costs like $16.99 for that paperback. It's like, yeah, it costs $16.99 and printing it is about $13.50 through KDP and Ingram Sparks. And then also a lot of authors are trying to recoup the money they spent out of their own pocket for the cover, for the editors, for the line editors, for the sensitivity readers, for their marketing that went to like a PR company or whatever, or that they sent out to influencers like ARC copies and stuff like that. So the average money that they actually earn per book is about $1 to $2. Not a bad shake in the grand scheme of things. You sell 100 copies, you just made $100 or $200. It could be a lot worse. And it is in traditional publishing. So when I'm talking about Reveal Box, what I mean is according to the authors that have posted about this, so allegedly, I have not tried to get in to submit something on Reveal Box to see what they send me back. If they send me back anything, that would raise some red flags because I'm not published unless you count like 100k plus word fan fiction, in which case, yes, I am a twice published author, but I haven't gotten there, so I don't have the information from me. They provide screenshots in those TikToks. There's several other TikToks. You can go over and look around TikTok if you want to. I'll link some of them that were talking about it from different angles down below for you guys to go take a look. But when they say not compensated, they mean they don't get those royalties. Okay, they wanted the authors to hand over their raw manuscript for them to print. This is apparently not uncommon for special edition books. They'll ask for like a PDF or something that can't be like edited, and there are lengthy contracts about what it's being used for and everything else from what I understand. But from what I've seen, Reveal Bookbox doesn't do special editions. They're just eating the cost of the publishing, and they need the like raw manuscript for that. I'm on the fence about that. Like, I would want to really trust the person that I'm handing my manuscript over to in a case like this, especially given some of the wording that they showed in the contracts, the email about usage and stuff like that. It would make me weary in this specific case of handing over my raw manuscript, but I do view that as a case-by-case basis, and I'm pretty sure everybody has a different opinion about it. But yeah, they are eating the cost of the publishing, so keep that in mind. But on top of that publishing, there is no compensation. Again, the going rate for what an indie author, because they're predominantly indie authors, would expect back in royalties is about $1 per copy of book. Keep that in mind. So this has been making the rounds through TikTok, and there are people both siding it. There are people that view this as a PR box. Well, I'm going to swing back around to that in a minute. And there are some people that are like, no, I'm not going to do this. This seems unfair and unreasonable. And I think both people have their merits. Like I said, the PR side, I'm going to swing back to because it's much more complicated than just a PR box, like sending out PR boxes or something like that. But overall, if an author decides one way or another that these are unfair practices, I think that they should talk about it and they should let their opinion be known, because these are their books, especially if they've dealt with the company in the past. The big thing with this comes from the company itself, Reveal Bookbox. I scoured over their FAQ page, and there is very little information of substance on their FAQ page. I did find one instance, or there's two instances on there where they refer to swag. If you don't know what swag is basically an industry term for like those little things that you get, like bookmarks or like a postcard with like the book thing like the book cover on it, and maybe like a little note from the author, a pen, like with the name of the book or a saying from the book or whatever, like those little things that you get. Those are referred to as swag, okay? I don't like the term, but it seems to be a pretty prevalent one throughout like PR, so it doesn't surprise me that it's also worked its way into like things like this. There are two instances on our FAQ page. One which asks what you can expect as swag in the items, and I'm going to go over the exact breakdown of their book boxes too on here. And the other one very tellingly says, who can send swag? And then it basically goes into like, we accept swag from everybody. And you know, you just like, we prefer things like pens, magnets, buttons, things like that, like those sort of things, and just send them to us. But like send us an email first and see like what we're looking for our boxes. And I have a problem with that wording because it leads me to believe that not only if what they're saying is these authors for the books are expected to send free swag for the books, and they specifically said 1,000, so I'm assuming they have 1,000 subscribers at this point, okay? They are also basically saying like, hey, do you at the cost of yourself, like you eat all the cost, want to send us a bunch of stuff so that we can put it in our paid subscription box. Paid subscription box. If you see where I'm going with this, the rabbit hole goes a little bit deeper. So yeah, so let's specifically talk about what their subscription box looks like. And I'm going to pull it up so I have it right in front of me while I'm talking about it. So they have 4 levels of their subscription box. That's not completely unheard of, so no red flags there if anybody was looking at this and just saw it. But the first one is an individual signed copy for $13.95. Then we have a 2-book subscription, and this is a monthly. So 2-book subscription, you get 2 signed romance books, awesome swag, whatever awesome swag is, women geared product sample. It says sample on here. Candy, ships in the US, that's $26.95. Okay. The next one is their big box, which is 4 signed romance books, great swag. Again, whatever that is. Women geared product sample. Again, sample, no S on the end. Candy, and that is $43.95. It also doesn't tell me what kind of candy, and I couldn't find any information about this. So it doesn't give me any allergen information, which is always something I like. I don't like the few companies I buy through that have like snacks in them. I reached out separately to ask and see if there were any allergens, or to make sure that everything was packaged in a way so that I would know what the allergens were, and they assured me it would be. So then the biggest one, which this one currently is not available, like not when you click on the subscribe thing, but if you go back to their main page, it says they're currently unavailable due to high demand. But it's 6 books, 6 signed books, great swag, women geared product sample, candy, ships in the US, and it is $65.95, excluding shipping and handling. Shipping and handling, you get free shipping with a promo code on your first order, but it is, I'm going to assume, I think it said, let me click on it again. I think it said like standard shipping. This ships in a 9x6. It does say that on the FAQ. Now it wants me to go back through all of the what are you interested in things, because their thing is that you they cater it towards you. I've heard mixed reviews about their catering system and how sometimes they'll send you books that aren't what you asked for, just because I was looking up generic reviews for the company before I started all of this, so take that for what you will. It seems like their catering system, like catering the books to your preferences, is hit or miss. But anyway, it's gonna make me redo all that, so I'm not gonna do it. I remember it being roughly $10 for shipping. So for their large box with 6 books, their product, their candy, and let's see, 6 signed books, product, sample, whatever that is, and candy is $69.95 plus $10 shipping and handling, $79.95 for that. Now, the reason why I talked about the swag and the not paying authors is because of that price. Like I said, they basically accept unsolicited swag, and from what I've seen on like unboxings and stuff that people have done of this company, it seems like the large portion of the items are those like swag items that people are getting. And even when you look at their promotional pictures of like which plan you want to take, it basically looks like a bunch of things that they had people send, or that people sent unsolicitedly, that are swag to get into their book box. And then like some cheap hard candies. No hate on cheap hard candies, it's just that's what it looks like. You would expect, given what I told you about the overhead for some of their items, perhaps they would splurge a bit more on the candy, but no. Alright, so that's almost all of the information I found out about them. I found out one other very interesting piece of information about Reveal Book Box, and for it I had to take kind of a deep dive, but I'll share it with you guys. Now, I'm going to start this by saying, remember, they don't pay the authors, they just pay for printing. Average cost is, I looked it up through a publisher out of China because they're some of the cheapest. It wouldn't let me do 1,000 books. It considered that a custom order, and I had to call their customer care line in order to do it. I wasn't going to do that, sorry. I did 500 copies of a book, roughly 200 pages. It gave me a wholesale price for print on demand of $7.48. I'll put it in here because I have a screenshot on my computer. About $7.45 per one. Now, when I ran the math for how much 1,000 copies would cost, of like how much that would be like per item, and like, you know, what the breakdown is compared to a single item and stuff like that, wholesale for 1,000 copies of a book should be roughly, through the company that I found, about between $5 and like 80 cents and $6.20. If my math was right. So the reason why I'm telling you that is that would be how much Reveal Book Box was paying for their books. It might actually be a little bit cheaper because the company, when I was looking at it, didn't specify anything like special about it, but all of theirs seemed to be like pretty standard, like just regular paperbacks. So it should be somewhere around in that range. So the cost of the book would be that. There would be nothing extra on top of that because they are not compensating the author. Now, they are also not supplying the swag in these boxes. That is completely like free of charge. People are sending those to get them in there for PR, okay? The candy, I mean, a few pieces of hard candy or like caramels doesn't cost that much per item, especially when you're buying wholesale prices, which I assume they would be for 1,000 boxes. You're looking at maybe 5 cents worth of candy wholesale value. And by wholesale, I don't even mean like big commercial wholesale. I mean like big box wholesale, like I buy from Costco, that kind of wholesale. So you have that. Okay, so we're looking at benefit of the doubt, $6.25 for a single book and some candy. I'm going to be doing it in a comparison to the larger one in a minute, but the box that comes in, even branded boxes, if you're supplying 1,000 a month, you're looking at roughly maybe 2 to 3 cents for custom boxes per like box, because most people don't buy boxes for a single month supply. It's usually cheaper to buy like 2 months supply, and that's about all the room anybody would have to, like a small company would have to like store, is about 2,000 boxes broken down. But you're still looking at about, again, rough estimate, benefit of the doubt, 5 cents per box for a stylized box. Again, because of the, not because they're cheap quality or anything else, but because of the quantity that you're buying. The more you buy, the cheaper it is. If you were to buy like 100 boxes doing this yourself, and you were to buy custom boxes, each one of those boxes is probably going to cost you $3 or $4, just because of the cost of it and how many you're buying. The more you buy, the cheaper that you can get them, if that makes sense. So we have that, and then the sample leads me to believe that these aren't purchased products from a small vendor or anything like that. These are samples that are sent, much like the swag is, to the company to get their product's name out there in this box. So I'm going to assume those are coming at no cost or if it's a cost, it's a very little cost because they're considered samples that Reveal Box is getting them. So benefit of the doubt, let's say your sample costs $1. So if I ran the numbers, the cost for the books, the candy, the box, all of that, the materials needed to put this box together is about $38.06, which they are turning around and selling for $69.95. Now, yes, there is overhead, okay? I couldn't find an exact number because subscription boxes are like relatively new, but a general rule from what I've seen online is 10% of the profit should go towards overhead. So the profit for that large box would be $31.35, and 10% of that would be roughly $3.13 on top of that for overhead, which would leave Reveal Box with roughly a profit of $35.51. Now that could vary a little bit by about $2 or $3, like about $31 if there is more overhead. Okay, that's what I'm looking at, is the overhead costs. I'm basing that off of, they're selling 1,000 subscriptions a month. That's roughly $3,000 worth of overhead for employees, because most places don't have full-time employees for their boxing places. They don't. They're part-time that work in distribution weeks, and then that's it, because they only need people there, like, while they only need X amount of people there while they're fulfilling the orders, you know, the place where they're doing it, the electricity, property tax, all of that. So it could be as little as $30 profit off of each and every box. Do you get where I'm going with the math? If you do, you see why I have found some of the arguments that they're a small startup company and they can't afford to pay the authors a percentage or a rate per book that is being printed. So if you were to take another dollar out of that, again with the high estimate that they are only making $30 a month or off of each subscription, if they were to say pay, you know, that $6 per copy out of each book, they are still making $24 in profit. Remember, I took out cost, profit off of each box of the big ones. Yeah, this is just to give you a general idea. I crunched the numbers as well as I could given the information I could find online. And if somebody wants to come in and tell me I'm completely wrong and wrong me with math, that's fine. I was a philosophy major in college. Alright, so that is all of the information I am giving you about Reveal Box, okay? I am going to now do a comparison with a company that I've purchased through. I told you I reached out to Unplugged Box. They told me that they do in fact compensate their publishers and their authors. I'm going to put it in here and you can pause to read their first response to me. It's basically what I said the other day in like that little tiny video, if you guys saw that. I reached out and asked for their percentage. I told you guys I would update you on that. They will not discuss that with me because it varies depending on the author. And basically how Yasmin explained it to me is, I'll put up the thing here, but basically it just depends on which author they are working with. Those things are handled contractually. The company does not discuss the exact things with those contracts because it's the author or the publisher's personal information, their contract. It didn't say that they don't allow the authors to say anything about it, so I would assume if any author who had one in their book box in the past who wanted to talk about it, they could. It's just that Unplugged Box and by extension Twisted Retreat, because they're owned by the same company, do not discuss the exact percentage. They will only say that they do in fact compensate authors. And like I said, that makes sense. Like if you are buying wholesale for a special edition from like a traditionally published author as opposed to working with an indie author, I'm sure there's a lot more litigation that has to go back and forth for those contracts so that everybody's in a happy place. Because the publishing house has to take their cut too. But I am going to compare and contrast what I told you about Revealbox and then what I know about Unplugged, because I also did my back-end research with some of their stuff. So specifically, I'm going to be talking about Twisted Retreat. Why am I talking about Twisted Retreat? Because it is their more expensive box. It is their most expensive box they have that is not a limited run or a specialty box, okay? It sells for $52 plus shipping, handling, and tax. Now with their large box, if you haven't seen my reviews, I'll put a tag up here and you can actually see what the items look like. But you typically get a limited edition book, something like this that has a cover that is exclusive to the box, stenciling, pages, sometimes with maps, depends. And then filigree on this. Completely special edition, only available in that box, okay? Now you only get one, but you do get a rather nice one. Now with that, you also every month get a candle, at least 2 items of another kind. Let's see. They consider them artsy items. You get an artsy item, you get a snack, and then 3 like nightmare novelties, which could be anything. I've got, if you can see it back there, this is a this is one of the ones I got. I don't think I've uploaded the unboxing yet because I was trying to figure out whether or not I could ethically upload it, but it's one of these. I got that. A vase, that sort of thing. Basically things that you could get wholesale from places like Temu or Alibaba that are slightly nicer quality but can be customized to your box. Like that one has a saying from Firestarter on it. I have a Bram Stoker like Dracula like little book vase over here that I keep my pens and my pencils in, that kind of thing. Are they like high quality? Not really, but they are catered to the box and the themes for that month. Now, the vendors have been changing. The vendors for the snack typically are changing. I couldn't find any real hard like numbers for any of the recent ones that were wholesale, but their regular items typically sell for between $5 and $8. Like they did a like cheesecake mix thing that sold for like $6 something on the vendor's website. So I would assume wholesale would probably be about 50% of that. I can figure out roughly about $3 for that. It's a small business, so wholesale is dependent on negotiations. But one company that they frequently feature and that I review on this channel, which is Fiction Bath Co., conveniently has their wholesale numbers buried deep on their website, so I could track them down. So I could figure out how much they would be charging wholesale price for one of their items. The answer is it's tiered. It depends on how many you buy. Between 24 and 100, 25% off. 100 to 500, 30% off. 501 to 2500, which is a lot of items, 35% off. 2501 to 5000, 40% off. More than 5000, please contact us. Understandable. So I would assume that Twisted Retreat falls in that 501 to 2500 range, which would be 35% off. They frequently feature things like bath washes, stuff like that. Bubbly elixirs, that thing. Those run about $11.30, I think. So I would take the 35% off the $11.30, which would be about $3.95 off per item and about $7.34 for the item to go in the box. Okay, why am I telling you all of this? It's because I also looked up for a special edition. They wanted me to call, which I didn't do, but I could tell from looking around that it's an average of about $9 for an order of 1,000 special edition boxes. That was for me piecing together my own math, okay? It might not be accurate, but I didn't have the time to actually call these publishers that are real businesses and pretend like I was going to order 1,000 books with stenciled edges in order to get an accurate quote. Their websites just don't allow you to order in those quantities without talking to a physical human being, because they want to make sure you're going to pay for it. I didn't want to pretend like I was going to pay for that many books, so I just didn't. I Frankenstein together the math. So about $9, all right? So we have $9, $7, that takes us up to $16. About another $5 for the let's say $4 for the stack item. That's $20 right there. All of the novelty items are, I would say, if you're buying 1,000 of them, they're probably pretty cheap, $2 a piece. So that's another $6, $26. The art prints, again, you can do fairly inexpensively. Probably, I'd say, $2 a piece for one of those. We're up to $32. Add on, I'd say, $1 for the author and $1 for any of the artists that help design any of the items. So they usually do like 2 or 3. So let's see, that's $4. We're up to $36 in costs. Unplugged Box is Twisted Retreat is $10 cheaper than Reveal Box. And with paying the authors, paying the vendors, paying for the publishing for a special edition book, we are looking at about the same amount of out-of-pocket before that 10 to 20% for overhead comes into play. And that is with Twisted Retreat still, even after I factor in all of that, clearing about $15 in profit off of each box as high end. Now, why did I go through all of this math breakdown? That's what you're asking. You've been sitting through this big long spiel about how much things cost. It all came down to the fact that I found a very specific, very weird website. It's called BuzzFile. If you didn't know, this isn't sponsored. Nobody's ever going to sponsor me. But did you know that you can just look up anybody who's listed as an LLC and you can get their information on like where they're located, contact information, what their estimated annual sales are? See where I'm going with this? So I looked up Reveal Box. Now this is not profit, okay? This is sales. Sales are different from profit. Sales are what you have before you take out what your expenditures are for the month. And keep in mind, Reveal Box has a huge following on social media. A lot of people seem to review it. A lot of people follow them. They have like over 12K on TikTok and stuff like that. They only seem to be clearing around $477,000 in sales in a year. Now, like I said, I did the big box, right? I know most people aren't going to pay for that, I would assume, but I just told you that I pay for another subscription box that's only $10 cheaper than that, and it doesn't come with 6 books. So I would assume they have people who are interested in the larger book boxes. Even the next one down still has a significant profit margin on it. But it's the fact that they, like, according to BuzzFile, and I'll put it down and below so you guys can take a look, and if anybody knows anything about this, because finding information on sales for non-publicly traded companies is incredibly hard, and most book subscription boxes are not publicly traded. Some of them it's even hard to track down their LLCs on. Like I looked up Rainbow Crate and a few other ones, It's just without me sending out an email to them to find out exactly how they're listed as an LLC, it wasn't easy for me to track down that information, if that makes sense. So getting that information is hard. It just so happened that both Reveal Bookbox and Unplugged Bookbox were available on BuzzFile, okay? But that's how much BuzzFile says that they have. They also say they only have 3 employees. Again, when I told you about people mostly being hired, like, you know, sort of flex for fulfillment days, that sort of makes sense. Unplugged Bookbox, technically, according to the website, only has 5 full-time employees. They still have more than Reveal Bookbox, but I looked over at Unplugged, and again, they have 2 book subscriptions, right? So it makes sense that they are clearing about $1 million in sales, 900 and some between their 2 book boxes. That makes sense. They have 2 under that LLC, so they would make about double. The problem I'm having is, you see that number, right? Like, it's still a significant amount of sales every single year. I broke down the cost of the book box and how much, like, it would cost, like, that people are being charged for these book subscriptions. And again, they have multiple levels, so there's multiple different amounts of profit margins and everything else. I am stuck on the people who made the argument that Reveal Bookbox was a small indie company and could not afford that dollar per book for the authors. Because again, you choose, they send you, yes, but it seems to be a print on demand kind of thing. And also, like, I don't know how much individuality there would be, because the cost of that would be exponentially higher. Like, to print a single run of a book is like 13 something to do it, because I was going to have something printed. It's like 1380 runs about for a single print. So I'm wondering about that business model too, or like I told you at the beginning, like people saying that they were getting books that weren't really like catered to them. So maybe that's more of publicity than what actually happens, which would make more sense. Like, you get to choose, but you don't actually get to choose. It's the illusion of choice. I don't think the people that are making those arguments that like they can't afford it are making those arguments in bad faith. I think they're making those arguments not understanding all of the back end stuff that I just explained to you guys. And that's fine. You're allowed to be ignorant of things. It's a little bit of a problem when you try to purport to be an authority on something when you don't know. Even then, I wouldn't call myself an authority on this. I'm somebody who fell down a rabbit hole the other night when she had insomnia and ended up with 20 pages of like 20 tabs open in Chrome and a thought in my head of like, something's not adding up. So that's what this is. This is me being like, I don't know if it's adding up. Let's talk about the people that argued that this is a PR box. And I'm not going to discredit indie authors who view it that way, who view it as, yes, I'm not making anything, but I am hoping that this turn around and I create a fan base based off of this. I'm not discounting them viewing it that way. I am discounting some of the people who are purchasers who view it the same way. What I mean by that is, you don't pay for a PR box. You don't pay for influencers, whatever you consider that. I think my technical title would be like whatever's below a micro influencer, like, because people have actually said that they've taken my reviews into consideration when reading something or watching something or buying something. So whatever is below a micro influencer. But when you get sent things hoping that you'll put it on a platform, you don't pay for those things. I have ARC books right now that I have gotten from authors that I reached out to because they sounded interesting, and they gave me those free copies because of my platforms. They want me to talk about it with you guys. They want me to like put my name out there. And so they sent me basically PR. They sent me PR. That's what it is. But I didn't pay for the PR. Nobody pays for the PR. If you see somebody unboxing a PR box from an author on TikTok or on here, or from a company, or showing something off, and they say that they were sent a PR box, they didn't pay for that PR box. So if you're going around saying that the subscription that you paid for is a PR box, you're misinformed. That's nothing against you. You're just misinformed. PR is simply PR, public relations. It's sent at no cost to the person, usually because of legal gray areas where paying for reviews has to be done in a very specific way, or else it's considered disingenuous, and like there's all sorts of stuff that you have to deal with. That's why people hire PR companies to handle those things. But typically being paid for a review is frowned upon legally and like culturally we looked at on people who hype stuff up who are only being paid for it. You always expect that they're going to say nice things because they're being paid for it. That's part of the reason why people don't pay for PR boxes, because they want an honest review and they would rather have it be organic, that somebody is excited about that thing and telling everybody about it, than for everybody to go like, oh, they don't actually care about it, they just got paid to post that. Organic stuff tracks a whole lot better with consumers, or at least what appears to be organic. Again, it's not completely organic. They sent the stuff for free. They got it for free. They're excited to show it off because it was free, but they weren't being paid for the things that came out of their mouth. So yeah, I think that's just people being misinformed. Maybe they were so desperate to be an influencer that they considered it PR. It's not really how that works. Just in general, there's your like, the more you know moment. Also, I'm going to really briefly, because this is a very long video, talk about the fact that Revealed Bookbox has refused to comment on this situation, on authors not getting paid. Instead, they went on a thing on their TikTok where for a few days they've just posted basically slides of people saying how much they love their company. A company's in the right when, instead of like tackling it head on with like, say, a statement saying like all of our authors agree, they would know it, they don't get compensated, but they get the exposure and things like that. We get that agreement ahead of time. All of, everybody's happy. They instead just put a bunch of like BS in a scroll for you to flip through, because that's what it is, BS. That speaks to poor management and not realizing how the internet works, because just because it only blew up over on TikTok for a couple days doesn't mean we don't have multiple platforms and we can't talk about it elsewhere. Like this. A company's non-response to a somewhat scandal like this is very telling. They either think that they shouldn't have to respond, which they kind of did by basically being like, everybody loves us, or they're hoping that it'll die down. They're not wrong in that assumption. It's already starting to die down, but I have a feeling this is going to be something that's going to pop up periodically unless they change their business practices and change how they form relationships with indie authors. Because if an indie author feels like they are going to be treated fairly and justly, even if there isn't a monetary compensation for it, that goes a long way. And I think a lot of this is the fact that they felt like they weren't being treated fairly. Because if you let somebody print 1,000 books and then hand them out, yes, that's 1,000 people. Because if you give a company your manuscript and they print 1,000 books and sell them without compensating you, yes, that's great exposure, but that's also 1,000 less sales, because now those people don't have to buy your book. They already have it. I could see making an argument for if they didn't get compensated for, say, digital copies. That's sort of what you get when you get ARCs. You very rarely get physical copies. You get digital copies. And I've read some ARCs that I'm going to go and purchase the physical copy for because I want it. And that's the thing, is you could still get sales by basically giving them a free ebook, and then they could choose to go pay for a hard copy of your book, whether that's hardback or paperback. And that is something that I, as somebody who is writing, would be more okay with. And like, you always have to worry about piracy, but like, if you put anything up on Kindle Unlimited, it's already out there for piracy. People get on ARC teams just to put things up for piracy. And while I have a complicated thought of that, of like, well, I wish the people who could pay would, sort of deal, or at the very least, like, I wish people wouldn't go out of their way to pirate things when they are available in some forms, especially because a lot of indie authors have freebie days on Amazon and stuff. You can go get their books for free on certain days. You can follow their newsletter, find out when that is. So that's a complicated mess. But like, yeah, I think there's a better solution that doesn't involve Reveal Book Box with their profit margins, not paying authors anything. At the very least, they should pay them for the swag that they're putting in those boxes. Like, right? Am I wrong? Anyway, that is this very long, very winded drama talk. This is probably gonna be one of my longest videos. If you didn't watch it all the way through, I completely understand. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? Have you bought from Reveal Book Box before, or are you now not considering it? I'm not considering it, like, just in general. Like I said, well, it really wasn't my thing, but sometimes I'll pick up things that aren't really my thing to show off with you guys. I will say, as far as places that I know that they pay their authors some form of compensation rate. You have Indie Book Box, support brown and black authors. You have Rainbow Crate, support LGBTQ plus members. You have Fae Crate, support your local Fae. That one's not anything specific. It just Fae Crate pays their people. Unplug Box, Twisted Retreat also pays their people. So there are book boxes out there, and I don't think that anybody is wrong in taking 5 seconds to shoot off an email to a company and asking before they spend their money there if their authors are compensated. It's something I'm going to start doing now for the things I show off on this channel. If I don't know for sure whether or not the author is getting paid or getting compensated in some way, or is okay with not getting compensated, then I am going to let that weigh heavily on whether or not I purchased the box and show it off with you guys. Now, some of those ones that I just listed, I'm going to be showing off in the coming months. Not Fae Crate. Indie Book Box I'm going to be getting. I was waiting to get paid, and then the sale for the one-time box is up, so like I'm still gonna do it. Like, you know, the guy who owns the company seemed like a great guy. He's an author. He's over on TikTok. I follow his stuff. Rainbow Crate, I gotta get back in the waitlist because I canceled my slot in the waitlist with all the stuff that happened months ago, and so I gotta get back in. But I'm going to be showing that one off. That one I've always been hesitant of just because it is a recurring subscription. They don't offer a one time only like some of the other companies I've shown off. Indie Book Box does. Fae Crate I don't think I've ever considered just because they lean more towards YA, and while I'm fine with new adult, YA is still as a thing for another day. But yeah, so I will be showing off more, and this is just to let you know all of the thought that goes behind the scenes with my isms when I show something off for you guys. But yeah, that's it. That's it for today's very long video. If you made it all the way through, please feel free to comment. If you didn't make it all the way through, you won't see this, but like, you could comment whatever you want down below, as long as it doesn't break my guidelines that I've laid out. It will stay up no matter what it is. If you like this video, you could like it. If this is your first time finding me, feel free to subscribe. You can go check out my unboxings. You can go check out my original content, all that stuff. We just have fun around here. I have fun sometimes. This was fun. But yeah, with that, those ARC reviews are coming in the next couple weeks. I'm filming them today too if my voice holds out. A few other stuff is my birthday month and my anniversary month on here is coming up, so I've got some fun stuff planned, so stick around for that. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye!